All right. Welcome to technical session number 48. Troubleshooting security issues, mobile issues, and mobile security issues, mostly getting into troubleshooting of software. Continuing our journey on that. Our objectives for this particular technical session are going to be going to review and talk about the steps of the troubleshooting theory. Remember, there are 6 of them. We're going to talk about some ways to troubleshoot PC operating system problems with the appropriate tools. So we're going to get into some tools, talk about some common PC security issues and appropriate best practices, and then common mobile operating systems and applications and issues as well. There are no BSMs for this one. I know it's disappointing. We thought about it long and hard, but they kind of all just fit in. So, yeah. All right. So our troubleshooting theory. First thing we want to do is identify the problem. And while we're doing that, while we're identifying the problem, we're going to be questioning the user and identifying any changes or anything that might have been done, open-ended questions, trying to figure out what exactly was occurring when the problem presented itself. We're going to be performing backups before any changes are made. And then step 2, we're going to be establishing a theory of probable cause. And if necessary, we're going to be doing external and internal research, utilizing our body of knowledge that we have within our computer, also our own knowledge, obviously. And then we will kind of stretch out from there, go to outside forums, manufacturers' websites, things like that, talk with some coworkers, and then finally, if we are unable to figure things out, escalate it to a superior. All right. Once we've done that, third step in the process is going to be to test our theory to determine the cause. Once our theory has been confirmed, we're going to be talking about the next steps that we have to do to resolve that problem. If we don't confirm it, reestablish a new theory or escalate. After that, establish a plan of action and resolve the problem, implement the solution. Next step after that, verify full system functionality and take preventative measures. You know, is that training? Is that anti-malware? What have you? So what preventative measures do we need to take? And then finally, most importantly, document our findings, actions, and outcomes. What did we see? What did we test? What was our process? What did we try? What worked? What didn't work? And finally, what was the solution? And they have a fun little flow chart broken across 2 pages. I like it right here. Give up. Escalate. Throw my hands up, I don't care. And then bottom part of it, verify, follow, documentation. So nice little flow chart just kind of showing us our walk through the process. So troubleshooting some security issues, stuff like that. A multitude of viruses and malware and stuff like that will kind of let you know as soon as they're there. You start to have service disruptions, things won't act the way they're supposed to. We had that long list of symptoms for malware. Some can sit on there for years without you knowing about it. So when we're trying to determine our virus infection, knowing their symptoms are pretty critical. So here's some, that it might show up. The pop-ups, browser redirection, slow performance, security alerts going off, either valid or invalid, your system's locking up, applications crashing, rogue antivirus, spam, files moving or disappearing, and hijacking of email. So first one, kind of the most obvious. This is a little bit less of a problem nowadays than it used to be in the past. where you have pop-ups, and then they have ones that pop up behind your browser, so they're not as visible. And they call those pop-unders. And so like you'll be actively working on a browser and a whole bunch of pop-unders will show up behind there, and you'll be chewing up RAM and stuff like that. And you don't realize it because it's happening behind your visible area. And then when you minimize, then you'll see all these open windows behind there. But pop-up blockers mitigate this for the most part. So, and these tend to be built in pretty standard into almost all web browsers at this point. In fact, you have to actively turn them off for certain sites so that they'll actually function. So pop-ups and pop-unders. All right, next, browser redirection. This is otherwise known as farming, and this is kind of an interesting one. Anybody here familiar with what's called affiliate links? Like you go to an Instagram post or a YouTuber site or some social media, and they'll be like, oh, you like what I've done here? Well, here's a list of the materials that I use below. If you click the link, you'll be able to get to it, and it'll take you to that list on Amazon or whatever. And you can buy the same materials I used or the same clothes I'm wearing or what have you, you know. And they use what's called affiliate links. And what it is it's a unique link for that person that if you go through that link and buy that item, they get a cut. Well, some hackers will actually create affiliate links and use them to replace links in places like Google search engines and stuff like that. That way, when you click on some item like a new router or what have you, and it takes you to Amazon, you buy it, the price is no different to you, so you don't really care. But what happened is it was now an affiliate link and the hacker now gets a cut of that sale. So they call this farming. You can also be used to redirect you to another site that looks like the site you want to go to, but is theirs, and they can use it to gather information or you know, steal credit card data, all that kind of fun stuff. So that is farming. Most common thing we talking is hard this morning, sorry. The most thing that we commonly associate with viruses and all that kind of stuff is slow performance. Everything is slowing down. All your resources are getting used up. They're chewing on up all these things, one, to try to spread through your system, others to move to others, or they could just be trying to deny you service or the use of your computer. We can track a lot of this stuff down through the use of Task Manager and Resource Monitor. They can help you identify which programs are the culprits. If you don't recognize the application that's causing those problems, definitely do some research before you start killing them, because you may kill key processes. But it is a step in the troubleshooting process. And if it is malicious, go ahead and terminate it. It also could be just a hung application that's chewing up resources. This happens too. Some of these symptoms could also mean other things, but especially if you're seeing more than one of them, it is indicative of some form of malware. Questions so far? All right. Security alerts. These can be both valid and invalid. Some hackers will issue phony threats to you to kind of get you scared. There have been hacks or viruses that were basically hoaxes, and they essentially were telling you or making claims that viruses could accomplish things that they absolutely weren't possible. But you may think they are. They can use this to try to get you to download antivirus software from them or what have you. You know, I'm sure some of y'all have seen it when you're going through a Google search or something like that, and then you'll see like a little pop-up come up and say like, hey, we've detected, you know, 3 viruses on your machine, please download our antivirus and get a free trial. You get 7 free scans. And more than likely it's malware trying to install onto your computer. I've had to like undo this at least 3 times on my parents' computers. Well, it said it was an antivirus. All right. PC or operating system lockup, pretty straightforward. The whole system locks up, stops responding to commands, doesn't recognize any kind of inputs, just kind of frozen. This can happen when it's asked to process too many instructions, but it can also be a symptom of a virus. So again, slow performance, PC lockup isn't necessarily a virus, but possibly can be. So a lot of these unfortunately have multiple reasons why. So we start to look for common threads. Application crashes. You've got to try to isolate the reason for it. It could be a compatibility issue. Do you have an older system and it's a newer application, or vice versa? Is it an older application and a newer system? I have some applications on my older phone that aren't maintained anymore, aren't kept up anymore, any of that stuff, and does not function on the newer operating systems. So if I want to use them, I got to use an old phone that I basically retired. Otherwise, they won't work at all. Does your system have enough hardware? Do you have enough RAM in your phone? Do you have enough storage on your phone? The other thing is, it could be malware. So after we've checked compatibility, we would look for updates, patches, fixes from the vendor, see if they have anything that might help that way. And the other way is to actually just run an antivirus. So you can isolate antiviruses to specific files if you wish, or to entire drives. However you wish, that way you can kind of save time. You don't necessarily need to do a full scan of your entire system every single time you run an antivirus. You can have a more surgical approach to it. Just like if you're ever going to plug in a USB into your system, run an antivirus scan on it before you open it up. It doesn't take that long to run an antivirus scan on a USB drive. All right, rogue antivirus. So one of the more entertaining methods, I guess you could call it, of spreading a virus is to disguise it so that it looks like an antivirus program, like we were just talking about. Hey, we've detected whatever, please click on this. And then you click on it, and then you run a scan, and you have to give it administrative access to scan your whole system. Once you do that, it has administrative access, and it now scans through and infects everything on your machine, creating all sorts of bad problems. Other issue, which I've mentioned a couple times, if you seem to be of the mind, if 1 antivirus is good, 2 is better. That's a really, really bad idea, because it's going to basically eat up every resource your computer has, because unfortunately, antiviruses tend to view each other as viruses. So they will use heavy resources to kind of fight with each other, so to speak. And they can, in essence, lock up your machine really bad if you have 2 running at one time. So only 1 antivirus. Choose wisely. Next, everybody's favorite, spam. Who doesn't love receiving 50 to 1,000 emails every day? Makes you feel like somebody's thinking about you, all that kind of fun stuff. Sitting there going like, I didn't know what I was going to do with my evening. I'm going to spend the next 6 hours responding to spam. Because I heard I want a $5,000 gift card. So spam is defined as unwanted, unsolicited emails. It can be very irritating and also can open the door for viruses and all sorts of other nasty stuff, because you may get a lot of, there is legitimate and illegitimate spam. So like you go to Amazon, they'll send you updates on deals. You sign up with a service provider, any kind of service provider, phone or internet or all that stuff. They'll send you spam. They're going to sell your information to other people. They're going to send you stuff. And then you're going to have people of ill intent sending you stuff just to see if they can get you to click on it. You know, your email may have popped up in some list and they give blast emails. Now, the way we would mitigate this for the most part is spam filters. And these vary pretty drastically in effectiveness. The hardest part is trying to weed out legitimate emails. And can be a very frustrating process. So you can have it as extreme as the only emails I wish to receive are those who are already in my contacts, or any email that was sent out to X amount of people, you know, stuff like that. So there are varying levels that you can set up, but again, as it happens all the time, legitimate emails get caught up in the process. The college in New York that I do work with, emails from their own people get caught up in their spam filters. So like they're sending out campus alerts and they're getting blocked by spam filters. So it's not a perfect solution, but it can mitigate a lot of the major annoyances. All right. Renamed or disappearing files. Some people just like chaos. They want to wreak havoc. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to delete, rename, or move files, especially key system files. Then if this happens, you're unable to perform basic functions on your system, like printing, saving a file, all that kind of fun stuff, because this stuff has been moved, the system doesn't know how to locate it, all that kind of fun stuff. So big red flag on a virus on that one. And then lastly, hijacked emails. Easiest way to kind of spread malware is to get into your contacts, and then once they're in there, send emails to all of the people who know you, because they're going to be much more inclined to open that email and click on anything that may be in there. Kind of like a chain letter, but really, really bad. Send this to 97 people or you won't win the lottery next week. All right. Questions on this? Everybody's so quiet. All right. Security tools that we can use pretty regularly: antivirus and anti-malware software, though these tend to be bundled together. The terminal or our command line interface, and then system restore and snapshot. Now for the troubleshooting process, our recovery console, event viewer, safe boot, and restore are very helpful. So antivirus software, here's just a few. You know, you got your McAfee, Norton, Kaspersky, Pata, and AVG. Depending on what kind of system you're running or who you want to deal with, these are all relatively good options. And they basically keep definitions lists, or signature lists would be certain types of code that they would look for in programs that would identify them as a, you know, some form of malware, or they would operate off of what is called a heuristic algorithm, which again is just a fancy way of saying behaviors. Are you chewing up a lot of resources? Are you accessing a lot of files? You know, things like that. And the anti-malware would look for something along those lines. All right, anti-malware, again, more of a suite of things. One of the least expensive ones you can get because it comes with the system itself, is Windows Defender Firewall. And it's, you know, pretty decent. It's better than nothing. And the price is right. And it has stuff in it like spyware, anti-malware, all that kind of fun stuff already built in. Next, the terminal, or CLI, command line interface, allows you to interact with the system at the command line. It is extremely useful when the malware is disabling the GUI functions, because most people typically can't operate beyond GUI. So when you get into command lines, it's generally foreign to a lot of people. So just disabling the GUI tends to be good enough. In Linux or Unix environments, it's far more common to interact with the command line. So, you know, people are going to be far more comfortable with it, as y'all are becoming right now, working through becoming a power user. All right, system restore. As we remember, it takes a snapshot of your system at a given time, and it only takes a snapshot of your system files and settings, not your actual like document files or videos or movies or all that stuff, your personal files or your user files. It is strictly system files. And you can set it to be kind of automated, where it's doing one once a week or once a day. And then before any major install, it goes ahead and creates a restore point. And that way, if something goes wrong during an install or what have you, you can always roll the clock back. Now, not a perfect solution, because many viruses and malware and stuff like that seek out to infect the system restore. So even if you restore your system, you're just reinfecting it.
Kelly.
Yes.
Does the system restore, does it act like the backups, like, you know, yeah, full backup, intermediate, and the third one? Like, does the restore get deleted at any point in time, or do we have to manually delete it?
I mean, they can set up to be deleted like every so often, like you may keep like 3 months worth or something like that. But yeah, at a certain point, they do get deleted. But you can go into settings and adjust that yourself. But it does not operate exactly like your incremental, differential, and full backups, because again, this is just system files. This isn't going to be your, you know, all your applications and your documents and all that stuff, which is what you would do for the full, differential, and incremental. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Awesome. All right. Take a screenshot of this, highlight it, put stars next to it, exclamation points. Keep it under your pillow, whatever you need to do. CompTIA loves asking about this. This is one of those lists that they like to ask you about all the time. And this is the best practices for malware removal. So first and foremost, we need to identify and ensure we are dealing with malware. So once we have identified this, the very next thing we need to do is we need to quarantine that infected system. Get it off the network, prevent it from spreading. Isolate it. You know, turning off its Wi-Fi, all that fun stuff. Shut it down from being able to interact with the network. Once we've done this, we will disable system restore to prevent it from creating any type of restore point. And then we will remediate infected systems, and likely we will not be able to trust the antivirus that is already on there because it missed it the first time. So we are going to have to use an updated version that we introduce to the system, either through an optical drive or through a thumb drive, and run the malware through there and run the anti-malware through there and try to cure it. Remediation may also mean the nuclear option. Doing a factory reset on it, taking it back to like it was a brand new computer, re-imaging the drives. So if we're unable to, depending on the type of malware we're using, we may not just be able to use an anti-malware. We may have to actually reset the system essentially. Once we have remediated the infected system, schedule scans and run updates on everything, perform preventative maintenance. If it's a educate the end user thing, we do that, all that kind of fun stuff. And then, or excuse me, not educate the end user at this point, but any updates we need to run, all that kind of fun stuff, preventative maintenance, set up scans, reestablish anti-malware, all that fun stuff. Then and only then do we enable system restore and create a clean restore point. And then finally, we educate the end user. Please don't go to that website and click on that link. I know they said you were going to get a gift card. They lied to you. I know you were told you could trust everything on the internet, but it's simply not true. So here we go. Everybody get a screenshot of this? They will ask you questions like, what should you do after you've quarantined a system? Or what's the first thing you should do after you identify malware? And here's the thing, they may skip steps. So the very next step may be missing. Like after you've remediated, they may not have schedule updates or scans. You may have to jump to system restore. So you're gonna have to know the next viable option beyond what you have. So know these in order. Questions, comments, concerns, blanks, revelations. All right. Mobile issues. And we talked about this a little bit already, but we'll go through a lot of the basic common problems with smartphones, be it hard reset, soft reset, close ring applications, force stop, factory reset, uninstall and reinstall applications. So hard reset shouldn't be your first go-to, but in the event systems are frozen up, it's not responding, it's not doing what it needs to do, you perform a hard reset. This is a little different for every phone. I believe on the new Apple devices, it's hold the up key and the down volume key and the power button down for like 30 seconds, and then it does a hard reset. Back then, it was press the sleep wake button and the home button for 10, and then once you see the Apple logo, it's done a hard reset. Soft reset keeps your data, from those running applications. You press and hold the sleep wake button until the slider appears, and then you would shut it off that way. And I don't think you can even do that now. Now you actually have to go into settings and go down and go shut down, and then you could either do a reset or shut down at that point. All right. Next, closing running applications. You should do this on a regular basis. I try to do this at least once a day. Go ahead and we talked about, was it Android was swipe from the up down to the center from the upper right. Apple is swipe up into the center from the bottom left. And figure out what applications you have running. Shut down anything you are not using. Do that a couple times a day. It frees up RAM, keeps things running smoothly. And if you keep seeing applications running in there that you are not opening, there may be problems with those applications. All right. Factory reset. All right. This is kind of like the nuclear option for our desktops. Got to set everything back to the way it was when it came from the factory. The iPhone is just settings general, go down to reset, not restart. And it should erase all the content on the phone and basically set it up as if it was a brand new device. Android, press and hold the home button, tap the volume, and then you select wipe data, factory reset, with the volume keys, and then tap the power button to activate it. Applications sometimes continue to act up, even though we have shut them down, we restarted them, we've done all this kind of fun stuff, still causing problems, or maybe they're just not launching or they keep crashing. It may come down to, we just need to delete the applications and reinstall them. Now, if you have a ton of applications that you don't use on your phone, don't be a digital hoarder. Free up some of the internet for the rest of us. Delete the applications if you don't use them. Especially if you have like ones on there that have been there for a couple of years. I paid 99 cents for that app. I can't get rid of it. I want to get every penny out of it. Just let it go. All right. So we're going to go through briefly some common issues on mobile devices and just quick ways to kind of troubleshoot and take care of them. You thought it reused even more battery, Justin? Well, I mean, when you're closing them, like if they're frozen up, you got to close them or crashing them. But shut them down if you're not using them. If you use your bank account, if you check your banking statement like once a week, you don't need to have that banking app and open all week, do you? So the couple seconds that you're going to use to reopen that application is going to be less than keeping that application open days on end if you only use it once or twice a week. It's kind of like the argument about, do I turn off the lights in the room when I leave if I'm coming back in a few minutes, or do I leave the light on? And it used to be like with the compact fluorescents and the filament bulbs, when you turn them on, there was a huge spike in power to get them running, and then it would level off and come down. And so the argument was leaving them on saved you that huge spike in energy and actually took less time than if you turn them off and then turn them back on when you came in. But since the kind of uptick in LEDs take very little energy to get off the ground, now even if you're leaving the room for a few seconds, you actually save energy by turning the lights off. All right, so variety of issues from dim displays to no Bluetooth, frozen systems, overheating, all that kind of fun stuff. And we'll cruise through those. Too far. So first one, dim display. The screen is probably the biggest drain on your battery of a phone. But unfortunately, that's what we use to interact with it, unless we're just listening to music or audiobooks or maybe talking on the phone. So inside of this, because it's such a huge drain, they'll have an auto dimming feature. This will happen after a period of inactivity, or if you're in a low light environment, it may go ahead and bring down the brightness of your phone. You ever been in a low light environment and have your phone on max brightness? It's like staring into the sun because your eyes have adjusted and it's just almost painful. Sometimes when we go in, we're impatient and we don't want to wait for the auto dimming to happen. So we'll go ahead and we'll drop down the brightness on our phone, and then we go to a highlight environment, like going outside, or, like if we were in a movie theater, then we step out and become blinded by the sunlight for, 5 minutes. And we try to look at our phone looks extremely dark. And by manually adjusting the brightness, we have overridden the auto bright. So we may have to go back in and turn the auto bright back on. Questions on this? No? All right. Intermittent wireless. Two most common causes are lack of a good signal or interference. So lack of a good signal if you're using wireless at your house and you're way far away from the actual access point, you're not going to get necessarily a great signal. You could have signal issues and stuff like that, so you may have to get closer. Interference. So say I'm operating off of 802.11g. What might be some issues I would worry about with regards to interference?
Microwaves.
Microwaves. Very good. Anything else? Not commonly used nowadays, but it's still an issue.
Anything else that operates on 2.4 gigahertz.
That's a catch-all. Anybody think of any others? Wireless phones. Some
The regular
walkie-talkies.
phones.
Yeah, the you know, the house phones, the wireless ones. They operate off of that 2.5. Intercom systems. A lot of things will operate off of that bandwidth. Very common one for a while. So, interference and distance from it can always cause problems. No wireless connectivity at all. Make sure if you're on airplane mode, because sometimes we turn that on without realizing it. Sometimes our kids turn it on because they like airplanes. Sometimes, you know, we forget to turn it off when we get off of a plane or something like that. We're out of a meeting or what have you. If that's not the issue, try to do a hard reboot reset, and that'll reset the cellular data and reestablish communication with the cellular towers, and that tends to correct the issue. No Bluetooth connectivity. Make sure the Bluetooth is on, and or check the device and see it has improper settings for discovery. Does it require a PIN number and we didn't use the PIN number? Things like that. All right. Cannot broadcast to an external monitor. So essentially make sure your smartphone and your monitor are compatible. Like it's really hard to connect an iPhone to a Chromecast or a Android to a Apple TV. So just be sure about compatibility, the main thing. And then check and make sure the functions are turned on the TV as well. All right, non-responsive touchscreen. Make sure you're not wearing gloves. Just a thought. If you're unable to get any kind of response out of it, do a reset. The reset will actually perform a calibration on the screen itself and should correct the issue as well. If you're still having an issue, try removing your screen protector, see if that's causing a barrier issue. What type of touchscreens do we use on our modern phones?
Capacitive.
Capacitive. Very good. What old technology did that replace? Not on phones, but
Resistive.
like tablets. There you go. Resistive. Very good. App's not loading. Try closing and restarting the app if you can. If that's not the case, restart the device. If that doesn't work, delete and reinstall the app. Thankfully, mobile device troubleshooting is relatively straightforward. Slow performance. Again, go make sure You've closed out all the applications you're not using, because you'd be shocked at how many may be running in the background. I do this on my wife's phone all the time. She'll have like 30, 40 applications running in the background, and the phone is running slow as anything. And then you go, close out all those applications. For the most part, the phone tends to run pretty good because you freed up all that RAM. That doesn't work. Try restarting the device, and that usually will fix it at that point. Email decryption. If it's unable to decrypt it, your decryption depends on certificates. And sometimes those certificates expire. But there's a configuration problem. Like if you have the wrong date and time, the date and time might be out of the range of what the certificate is. So if you say on your phone that it's, December 5th, 2005, and your certificate is valid from 2020 to 2025, your date is going to be out of range. So the certificate becomes invalid, thereby it will not open your emails. So make sure this stuff is correct. Try re-importing SMIME certificates and deleting and importing them from the source. All right, frozen system, do a forced restart. That doesn't work. Try plugging it in, letting it charge for a while, and then restarting it again. Extremely short battery life. This likely means you own an Apple device. All right, so amount of time before the battery needs to be recharged. Lifespan could be, like I used to go days charging my battery. Now it's like I use my phone for 30 minutes and I'm like on 1%. Tips for increasing the battery life: keep OS updated. Unless it's an Apple, then they'll, do the planned obsolescence thing on you. They did lose in court for that. Avoid too high or too low temperatures, because extremely cold, like, at freezing or below, can severely drain batteries. Too hot can overheat them, and that can damage your batteries. And not allow them to function properly. Other thing, location services. At any given time, you probably have 10 to 15 applications tracking you. These applications or the tracking services use up a lot of power because it's constantly trying to ping off stuff to figure out where you are. Same thing happens if you have Bluetooth on and you don't have any Bluetooth connected, or Wi-Fi on and you're not connected to any Wi-Fi. It's constantly looking for that signal, something familiar. So that process of constantly looking is draining your battery life. So if you're not, like if you leave the house and you only hook up to Wi-Fi at your house, when you leave your house, turn your Wi-Fi off. Turn it back on when you get home. That way it's not looking, it's not draining your battery life. If you don't use the GPS services on your phone very often, turn off location services. That'll extend your that'll extend your battery life as well. Well, they have settings on there, Justin, that every app that's going to track you has to actively ask you if it's okay. And what do most people do? Sure, why not? Yes, send me push notifications. I love my phone dinging every 5 seconds.
There's nothing wrong with notifications.
I don't know. My default is no. Yeah, freezer can be bad for very, very cold temperatures can be bad for batteries. That's why up north you have all the problems with cars starting in the winter. They're sitting outside, it's cold, kills the batteries, and then people tend to have more trouble with cars starting in the winter time. All right. Disconnecting peripherals. headphones, all that kind of fun stuff, maintaining these connections if we're not using them. Uses up energy. If you're getting low on power, turn these things off. The less it has to do, the more you can extend your battery life. It's kind of like the car, you know, like if you're getting low on gas, you turn off the radio, you turn off the heat, you turn off everything else, you know, and run just on bare bones stuff, and you might get an extra mile or two to get to the gas station. Especially if you have an electric car. All right. Silent mode. Check or no sound coming from your speakers. Check the little switch on the side of the phone. I can't tell you how many times I've actually done that, where people have handed the phone like, "Yeah, my phone's not, you know, none of the stuff's coming out of the speakers, any of that stuff." And they'll hand me their phone, and I instantly just turn it on the side, see that little orange line, click it off, hand it back to them. What'd you do? It's magic. So check that. If that isn't it, make sure the volume's up. If not, reset the application if it's a specific application. That doesn't work, reset the phone. That should solve it. Or restart the phone, not reset the phone, restart it. Overheating. Well, don't leave it in the car. Too high or too low temperatures. Having the phone in direct sunlight, like leaving it on your windowsill or whatnot, the sun's beating down on it, that can affect it. Leaving it on top of a heat source. I have seen people leave their phone on the radiator and stuff like that just because it was an easy place to put it. It's like a little shelf, you know, it's just a little warm. Things like that, that'll cause it. And then you get the frowny face thermometer on your screen, and got to cool the phone down, that kind of fun stuff. Sometimes listening to it, like if you're watching videos or something like that while it's plugged in, can cause it to overheat because it's charging and, you know, doing all this stuff at the same time. So if that's the case, take a break from your phone, turn it off, put it down, walk away, let it charge. System lockout can be the result of the device being disabled by remotely, you forgetting your passcode, you know, or a variety of other issues. Likely it is a passcode issue. Questions, comments, concerns? Pretty straightforward. All right. All right. Lastly, we're going to talk about some security issues on mobile devices. All right. First one, unintended Wi-Fi connection. This is a primary reason why I try to keep my Wi-Fi off when I'm not in the house. I do not connect to unknown sources, things like that. And if they have an open channel, then your phone may just auto connect to it. And they have a setting in there that's like, oh yeah, just connect to any open Wi-Fi. And hackers love that because they can just leave a little Wi-Fi access point up there for you, and you'll come in, you'll connect to it, and then they have access. The other access that can be done with unintentional Wi-Fi connection, the evil twin, as we talked about, where somebody will set up a Wi-Fi in like a Starbucks. They'll get the SSID and password from the barista, and they'll set theirs up to be exactly the same. They'll run a deauthorization attack. The moment that everybody is deauthorized, everybody tries to reauthorize again using that same SSID and password. They've spun up their evil twin. They may capture 15, 20, 30% of the people logging in. All right. Unintended Bluetooth pairing. This is anonymous devices allowed to connect to Bluetooth-enabled devices. These devices can gain access to information stored on the device. There's 3 levels of attack we talked about before. There's blue sniffing. where they can kind of see data that's being transmitted. There's blue snarfing, where they have access to files and contacts. And there's blue jacking, where they get full control of your phone through your Bluetooth. So if you are not using your Bluetooth at any given time, please turn it off. You're leaving an open window on your phone. All right, leak personal files and data. So when people do gain access, they're going to look for sensitive files. They're going to look for bank accounts. They're going to look for sensitive emails. They're going to look for proprietary information if you got it. If you work for a very large company and they can, glean that from, what's on your phone, they might be able to get sensitive information off your phone, which will help them make better investment decisions. Stuff like that. But ways we would try to mitigate this would be through mobile device management and the use of encryption on our phones. Data encryption, making it a lot harder for someone to do things like this. All right, unauthorized account access. This also can give users access to personal files and data which they should not have access to. Maybe they would gain access to your cloud services through the authorization on your phone. So then it's not just the data on your phone that's in threat, it's the data you have stored in your cloud. So like if you have reports, account information, all kinds of files stored on a public, private cloud, whatever, and you're utilizing the access through your phone to get to it. Once they have access to your phone, they can use the authorization process of your phone to pass through and get that information as well. Now onto the creepy side, unauthorized camera or microphone activation. This is a lot easier than people think on both phones and on computers. That's why so many people have these fun little camera covers that you can activate and deactivate when you want. Microphone is a little bit tougher, but it allows them unauthorized use of it to be able to see what your camera sees. Questions so far? Quiz time. Call is recording. We now come to the end of our first T session of the day. We should now be able to describe the steps for troubleshooting theory, troubleshoot PC operating system problems, and the appropriate tools we would use to work on these. Talk about some common PC security issues and appropriate tools, and as well with mobile issues. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, revelations. All right.